About 4:30, 5 minutes to sunset. The mild winter continues. It's a bit strange, but that's probably the new normal. At least with the nice weather, you get some nice coloring. I thought that in keeping with the last video I did, where I talked about an educational story of my childhood and tied it into psychology, I could try to do the same thing again with another story. I think that a lot of the problems that a person faces later on in life associated with cerebral palsy and their inability to get a job can be traced back to things that happen in their childhood. There seems to be events that take place which at the time, being a child or a parent who doesn't know much, events of this nature are often forgotten and not taken seriously for what they could potentially represent as a hardship, either in that present moment or in the future. Now, when I was in elementary school, we took a computer class where we were taught to use programs like Microsoft Word. Just very basic things like how to make text bigger, how to change font, how to type in an appropriate way. I believe PowerPoint wasn't even used at that time. It was just strictly Microsoft Word. Things like how do you format a letter and have the right spacing. Just very basic things that are used every day in an academic sense and in a professional sense. Now, I am 34, and this was back in elementary school. So this was a time when not everyone had access to a computer at home. So I was very slow in doing my assignments. And I remember one day, the teacher had our grades posted, and we could see each other's grades. They were on a sheet hanging on the wall. And I went to look at this sheet, I found my name and it had a 0% next to it, meaning that I didn't have a grade in the class. And this was because I was so slow, I wasn't able to finish any of the assignments. Now the assignments were just a long list of different things to do to create a Word document. And this list was long and much too long for me to finish. So I wasn't able to complete anything. And as a result of incomplete work, the teacher decided not to give me a grade. Now, ultimately, this didn't present an issue at the time because the teacher, knowing I was smart, must have just come up with something to give me as a score. I didn't fail the class or anything, but if we look back at just this example, this is a really telling experience of how my future was probably going to go. It showed that I was too slow to perform at a normal level. And business functions on a normal level. It doesn't function on your slower pace if you have its ability. This is just a hard fact of life. It's very depressing, but there are, once again, several things that happen throughout your life which demonstrate that you may have a problem performing in normal life beyond the things that you would normally think of. You would normally think of, oh, I have trouble walking, or oh, I have trouble taking a shower and need to hold on to things constantly, or I constantly grab onto walls to walk inside the house because I choose not to use canes. All of these things are things you would normally think of. I don't think that you normally think of professional skills as a stumbling block to your life, unless you are very occupationally therapist oriented, or you have that mindset. Normal people are not going to have this mindset. Now, I did take occupational therapy in school for some time, but the outcomes weren't great. But at the same time, I also can't remember anyone making a big deal about it. Almost as if it was an afterthought that didn't really matter. But fast forward, and it turns out that things like occupational therapy mattered more than anything else. Perhaps the only thing that would matter more than occupational therapy is if they mandated or required some psychological screening for mental health when you have a disability in school. But as far as I can remember, this was not done. Some dude is being annoying in the foreground. He always yells at his kids. It's very unbecoming. He's got a very high, annoying voice. But hopefully, his voice doesn't show up too much in the video, and my video is picked up over his. If you're a parent and you constantly yell at your kids, just know that you are doing nothing constructive, and your kids will remove you from their life as fast as they can when the time comes. I remember, this is another story. It occurred in high school. I remember getting a notice to go down to the social worker's office for some reason. And when I got there, the social worker couldn't remember why he had wanted to see me. That was essentially the extent of my experience with any type of mental health screening or any care of that nature. As a major blind spot back then, I wonder if standards have changed anyway. Because there are definitely signs that children exhibit, especially children that have a disability. Signs that show they're struggling with that disability in some way. It is very cold. My hands are frozen. This week right here was the one rattling and making all that noise. We have some nice lighting here. Some nice yelling. I think that's going to be the end of the video. It is very cold. And I've told some important stories today. So I'm happy with that. And that's going to be the end.